today we're watching Kill La Kill. Um,
Yes, let's go.
I
One of the best anime ever made.
I'm not sure how I feel about this, but you have, I guess, dragged me into this now.
Yeah, I've dragged him back.
Yeah.
Now, for the record, this was his idea.
Well, okay,
I
true.
was just going to debate him about how awesome and base Kill la Kill really is, but
Right. So I don't since I don't remember anything. This this
yeah,
is how
it wouldn't be a fair fight.
it's.
We gotta, we gotta remind him.
Well, I also never finished it, so it would be a little bit hypocritical of me to argue against it when I haven't even finished the show itself. So,
Well, see, a reason to watch
yep.
outside of this. See,
Yeah. All right. So, before we start, what do I remember about this? I remember it being kind of. Uh, I remember it being amusing at times, vaguely
hmm
humorous, shall we say? Um,
that is the first half of the show in a nutshell. It is quite humorous.
I remember being very confused for a lot of it as to like why anything was happening, and I remember feeling like it was like a lot of it was very pointless, um, and that's probably why I
Now,
didn't
it's
finish.
fight watched, but I'll be here this time to explain things. I've watched this series a lot of times in both English and Japanese,
Yeah,
so
way too many times. I'm hoping that I do
this
enjoy
will be
it
my
though.
fourth.
I am hoping that I do enjoy it because I am fucking tired of hating this show. So I'm gonna be honest. I'm really tired of
You're tired
disliking
of
this show.
hating. That's that's a nice mindset to have. I wish I could be tired of hating.
Well, hating just requires so much more effort than liking.
True. You have to actually put effort into raging against something.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Hate is
Yeah.
a valuable resource, and I want to stop wasting it on this show if possible.
The dark side is a pathway to many abilities.
Yes. Alright, so I guess no point in stalling any further. Anything you want to say
Yeah.
before we start?
Episode one is one of my favorite episodes purely because of the way that it's animated.
Okay.
It's done in such a really nice way in this episode, and it doesn't really get done in any of the other ones. So I'm excited to get back into it and
Well,
watch my favorite show again.
actually, that's something I want to talk about. I remember the animation being uh like
Don't say
people.
bad.
I remember like it being really stylized and people like praising it for being so stylized and unique. Um, but I feel like in recent years, like a lot of anime has been like that has had like that sort of stylistic, not to Kill a Kill's extent, sure, but a lot of anime has like really stylized uh shots in recent years. I think. So I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know that
fair.
the animation is as unique as people make it out to be nowadays.
When
Maybe
it first came out, though, this was extremely unique. It was really fluid, really
it
unique.
might have
And a lot
been.
of stuff they do later on in the series, too, is really inventive, especially with Nui.
Yeah, I don't. Um, I wasn't around when this first released. I think I was like 9 when this first came out. um,
Yeah, it came out in 2013, 2014,
2013.
so
So I was, depending on what month it came out, I was 10.
yeesh. While ago, 10 years ago now.
Yeah, yeah. So
Almost 11.
depending on what month it was, I was either 10 years old or 9 years old.
Hmm.
All
I
right.
don't remember which month it came out,
All
because
right.
I also wasn't around.
Well, I guess without further ado, let's
Yes, let's
let's get
go.
let's get this nightmare started.
Let's get right into the news.
1933年国家社会主義ド
National
イツ労
Socialist
働者党
German
は
Workers
政
Party.
権
I
を
love
獲
that.
得ヒトラー内
Yeah,
閣の誕生だ
It was the
that's the
birth of
ドイツの
Chancellor
戦後
Hitler.
民主主
Oh
義
my
が
god.
結局
This is
ファシズム
literally
政
why
権を
you're
生んだ
talking
こ
about.
とになる
Oh, this is such a statement about fascism.
yes, the first thing that the show does immediately hit you with like, oh, here's fascist history. Yeah, I was like, the first thing a series tells you is kind of important.
Not always.
We learned this, we were told this directly before we met any of the characters. I feel like it's a little important.
I feel like you're probably overthinking things, but
Okay. Never mind that all the students are wearing uniforms.
yeah,
Are
that's a
representative
thing they do in
of like
Japan.
military. These are specifically representative of the military.
Okay, I mean, I still feel like it's a stretch.
Yeah, maybe. Look at some of this. This is beautiful.
I
Not all of
mean,
it.
I'm not gonna deny that it's definitely stylized, but at the same time, kind of like I said, like so much anime is stylized nowadays, and so much better, or stylized so much better. Um, like your boy Kang Ming, I'm gonna go back to that, which is actually the greatest anime of all time. I would say that the stylization of that is extremely, like way better than this. At least just what I've seen so far.
I can't speak because I haven't seen that anime.
That's fair. It does a lot of like blending of styles. Instead of making it all stylized, it's selectively switches between like, you know, overly simplistic styling and like extreme detail. Like for the emotionally impactful scenes, it like has, you know, extreme detail in a lot of the character design, but then there's also like comedic scenes that it adds to, you know, having that stylistic like chibi or stylistic sort of animation really adds to the effect that it has. And I think, at least from what I've seen, this kind of could do, this particular show could do well to have less stylization in moments of more serious emotional, higher emotional stakes, I guess I should say.
We'll talk more about the animation stylization when we get to more serious scenes. There is one scene in particular I'm thinking of that I think really stylization,
Right.
but it's not.
I do
Oh,
want to
that's
comment
beautiful.
on. I always had a problem with not just this show, but I always had a problem with like those splash, you know, character name card intros.
Oh yeah.
I always thought they were just really clunky and weird.
For this show particularly, I feel like it works for it because it's trying to be over the top and very in your face about everything. And this is also the first show that I've ever seen where they do it, so I really like it. It adds to the charm.
See, the first show I saw that did it was Data Live, where they literally just had the name, age, and 3 sizes of all the girls. So I don't think you can top
Yeah.
that.
But I feel like the Japanese kanji is better. You know, I'm a true weeb.
I mean, it is extremely stylized kanji. You're not getting fucking. You're not getting anything out of it.
Yeah, that is true.
Did they just reuse shots there? I couldn't tell.
Did they? Maybe. Kill Kill is very inventive animation, but they do. Trigger is known to kind of want to save money. Like with a lot of Mako scenes, I doubt that they reanimated her doing the same things over and over again.
Yeah, you see, it's they say it's stylization, and that's how they get you. It's actually just saving money on animation budget.
To be fair, Trigger was also a brand new studio when this was made, I think. It had the money.
Darling wasn't before this, right? This was before Darling?
Yep, this was Trigger's, like, first flagship.
Really?
Darling was later. They worked with Studio Gainax on some things, and especially Gurren Lagann, but this was their flagship.
Okay, yeah, because I was gonna say, I could have sworn Gridman was older than 10 years. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe I'm just being dumb.
Even if it was, Studio Trigger is only 10 years old or so. Maybe 11. So I know they split off from Gainax fairly recently.
Speaking of Studio Trigger, I heard that there's a sequel coming out to Panty and Stocking. Did you hear about that?
I did. I never really liked the original Panty and Stocking.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was funny. The clips I've seen.
But you liked this?
But I liked this? Yes, this is great.
They're like the same though, surely.
They're the same. Okay.
I know, I'm just messing with you, I'm sorry. Oh my god, they're fucking talking about the Nazis again.
Yeah, he's a teacher, he teaches. And there goes Mako. I love Mako, she's so cute.
They used Bestie in 2013? Damn.
Well, you know how Japanese subs can be. I think in the dub.
English localizers exist. Go Burr.
I feel like in the dub she used best friend. But she might have used Bestie, who knows.
Alright, so I wonder, I must have missed it. Did they explain why she's going to this school yet?
They did not. They just noted her as a transfer student. So I have to assume you're led to assume that off screen she got transferred.
Right. Okay. So, you know, classic anime. New transfer student, protagonist.
Yep. Very classic. Playing it kind of safe.
I also am a little confused as to why.
Oh man, this is the
why the principal of the school seemingly rules the entire city, but again, I'm sure that will be explained. And I assume it has something to do with Ragyo.
She is rich. That is part of it. It's social commentary on like the rich, probably. It's explained in the episode, or elaborated on in the episode where Mako and Ryuko start their own club. which is still not for a while.
Oh my god.
What?
I just this is so bad.
What?
This is so bad for me to say because it's like not a thing unique to this show, but I feel like this show especially shines through with this show. The dialogue is so fucking cringe.
What do you mean?
Like, and I know that that's an anime thing
That's.
more than
I was gonna say this is all anime, but like, what specifically?
I don't know. It's just the way that it. You know what? I'm not gonna criticize. I'm not gonna criticize too much. I'm not gonna nitpick or. I'm gonna try and enjoy this show.
It's okay to have critiques.
I just feel like, you know, with most anime, it's watching. With most anime, watching subbed, you can generally, if you don't understand the language, you can generally, there's a sort of detachment there that prevents it from coming across as cringe. And I think that's why a lot of anime fans prefer, or English-speaking anime fans prefer subbed, is because it sort of dampens the cringe factor a bit. But with this, I feel like it doesn't. I feel like it's just cringe even to read it. Like, even reading it, you're like, nobody talks this way. This is absurd. They're like Shakespeare performers.
Okay, let me think. Oh, shut the deliveries.
I mean...
Okay, so it again plays into Kill la Kill's desire to be over, which is a lot of the reason for some of the dialogue choices done here. And it's a little difficult to defend. Because as someone who's had to write for a lot of Kill la Kill characters over the years.
He's a fucking... This guy. This fucking chuckle fuck.
What?
the blonde guy.
What's wrong with Gamagori?
I don't like him either. He makes me cringe too.
He's just a big guy. I can't call him a little guy, he's a big guy. He's just a big guy. He cares a lot about Satsuki and honor.
Yeah, these guys just feel overtly edgy. They should all have big, like, twirly Italian mustaches.
What do you mean edgy? They're clearly the villains, but I don't really get, like, edgelord out of them.
Again, it might be the over-the-top that's bothering me about this. And I think that might end up being a common theme in being my main issue with this anime. Is just how over-the-top it is.
I never noticed that before. They do a little flashback where like a stylized flashback. Where it's just like a bunch of...
I will say, there's definitely been a lack of, like, ecchi so far, which I've been pleasantly surprised by. It's been, you know, I remember there being a lot more ecchi than there is.
Yeah, she hasn't gotten the suit yet.
Okay, that was not styled. That was just badly animated.
Well,
The rocks moving. That was just awful.
okay. Kill la Kill is known for some anime stays.
I mean, I can't nitpick too much, but that's just funny. Oh god. Literally right after I said it. What the fuck?
I told you.
Someone wrote a fan dojin about this on, and
Oh, you have no idea.
there's definitely a lot of Rule 34 art about this scene.
I haven't seen too much for this scene, but for Senketsu specifically, you'd be surprised at how often he gets, like, turned into a human and then shipped with Ryuga.
No, I wouldn't.
See, you'd be surprised if you finished the series, because he never gave off that vibe to me.
I don't know. I feel like that's just the internet. Rule 34.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh!
Yeah.
Just casually dropping bombshells. Great.
Yeah, they just reference Raikyo, see?
Yeah.
Good writing.
Okay. Well, that does explain
These
a bit
setups and payoffs.
more. Planting payoffs.
Yeah.
What Oshinoko
First-
should have done.
Oh, that's our reference to our other episode.
Well, oh, for fuck's sake. Oh,
Okay, well, hang on. They didn't show her panty. They had restraint. You know, 90% of other animes would have absolutely shown the rest of her. Okay.
she's literally doing the fucking hentai girl, like. Okay, I'm never doing that again. I'm never doing that.
I know,
again.
you're a
Sorry
hentai
for
girl.
cursing your ears with that. But yeah.
It's like Yamate Kudasai.
Yamante Kudasai.
They're blushing like those cheeks.
I just have no idea what's going on.
Ryuko showed up to save Mako.
Why did Mako become one of those, like, cardboard cutout waifu board things?
It's for comedy. So that part's for comedy. A lot of early Kill la Kill is very much for comedic purposes. And especially for Mako, there's like a billion things for comedic purposes.
If the show can't take itself seriously, how's the audience expected to take it seriously?
Just because it has comedic moments doesn't mean that it's able to be serious.
I feel like it hasn't been serious all episode long.
What do you mean? Dialogue.
Yup. I fucking saw this coming. I knew this was coming, and I still wasn't prepared for it.
Just like God in Hellsing Ultimate.
Yes. Yes. I knew this was coming. I still wasn't looking forward to it. Well, I definitely wasn't looking forward to it, but I still wasn't ready for it.
I will admit, a lot of this guy's dialogue is
This
kind of a
frame,
mouthful.
this frame is just so absurd. Not even, I don't even know like if it's in a bad way or a good way. It's just so absurd.
Hey, I think we finally found the genre of Kill la Kill. It's absurdism.
It is just absurdist.
He really likes his absurdist humor, especially in the beginning. These first few episodes. Especially this one, the next
What was
one,
with that fucking
and
pan? Oh my god. Oh my god. And the shot from the back, the camera angle. Ah.
You can't complain when you are a fan of Data Live.
Data Live at least has restraint in the outfits that people that like the magical girls wear.
Yes, but this time it's the point.
Data Live knows when to ecchi and when to focus on action.
So does Kill Kill. It's just doing the ecchi right now for a reason.
Yeah, I don't know how I can take this seriously. Do you really expect me to take that seriously?
When she turns around and does something cool like this,
I don't know how I'm supposed to take anything she does seriously with what she's wearing.
Kill Kill balances out the etchiness of her outfit with the coolness of what she does.
Yeah, but you know what else does that?
What?
High School DxD.
I didn't watch High School DxD.
Well, I mean, it's basically what it does. You know, taking.
This looks so cool.
Well,
See, the whole thing is designed to look really cool.
That was an interesting moment. I'm not gonna lie.
If I say what I'm thinking, you're gonna say I'm looking.
The one where everyone jumped in front of them.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like symbolic of how, despite everything that everybody else is gonna do, Ryuko's still going to get over on Setsuki.
Alright, that's the end of the first episode. Okay. There's no
go.
after credit scene, right?
We could check.
There isn't. Doesn't look like
Nope.
it. Okay.
I don't remember an ending there though. I feel like there was one. No, that's episode 3. My bad.
You would know.
Yeah, I would, and I do.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Well, there we go. Episode 1 is complete.
Episode 1 is complete. Episode. I'm gonna be honest. If I was watching it on my own time, it would not have hooked me. And it just.
Admittedly, there's not a great plot hook here. We do get some things like, Ryuko's looking to find out who killed her dad, and Satsuki appears to either know, which is all very good, but admittedly, there's not a whole lot of a plot hook here. It's mostly what's going to hook most people is either going to be the animation or a lot of the finer points of the world building. Because looking at like a lot of the stuff in the background and like that the characters say, do, it's really interesting. And that's part of what got me, because I really liked the way the backgrounds looked. I was curious to see where this is going. And yeah. But I understand it might not work on everybody.
Yeah, I kind of, like I said, like, perhaps at the time it came out, again, I was like 10 when it came out, so I wouldn't know. Perhaps at that time it was, very interesting and very, what's the word? Like, very...
Unique?
Very unique, yeah, very, like, able to sort of grab people's attention. But I feel like in the current anime ecosystem, it just doesn't have that anymore because it's not unique anymore. Because so many
Yes, but I can say that it is one of the progenitors of a lot of this uniqueness that we get in modern day.
That's
Because
possible.
at this point in time, a lot of anime not only looked very similar, um, but was very much steering away from action and was much more focused on this was the cute girls doing cute things era. And Kill la Kill very much like reminded everybody that anime can do more action oriented stuff.
Well, I don't dislike the cute girls doing cute things genre. And
See, and I don't care for it, which is probably disconnects
well, yeah.
about the show between us.
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, I don't think that having a uh,
A
having
preference?
yeah, I don't think having a taste is a problem. I don't think it detracts from the show itself. Um, I think what's more of a problem is when you have an oversaturation of a certain genre. Like right now, we very clearly have an oversaturation of isekai because there is so much isekai coming out every season. It's just absurd. And even as someone who does watch some isekai, I still haven't gotten around to catching up with Mashoku Tensei. I probably should, but like
Yeah, I think that's more what I meant. At the time Kill la Kill was releasing that, there was a big oversaturation of like more slice of life, cute girls doing cute things stuff.
okay, well, I mean, I'm not gonna fault it for being a for taking risks at the time it was released.
Hmm.
Um, if that's true, then props to it for doing that. Um, but I can say that in the context of the current anime environment and just like looking retroactively at it and it compared to all the anime that exists, I am gonna be honest. I just don't see anything all that special about it, and I I think if an anime is only genius when it comes out and then not afterwards, it becomes hard to call it genius, don't you think?
I would agree. However, I still think Kill la Kill holds up. I think it's still one of the best animes that there is. Well, okay, maybe that's a bit of a stretch. I can't really joke about it being the best anime ever made in a more serious argument. Um, but I still think Kill la Kill holds up. I think that it's really good on basically every level. I like the story. The characters are all well put together, and I really like them. You can say what you will about the animation, the stylization, I suppose,
I do like
because there
it.
are animes.
I don't dislike it. It's just that it's nothing that I haven't seen before. And again, at the time that might have been super special, but now it's not. And so it doesn't the stylization alone doesn't make me want to watch it.
I mean, if you want to go that route, by that metric, anything that sets a precedent, anything that would set a precedent uh, that gets built on in the later years could be looked at as not as good anymore. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if trying to find something like with Iron Man 1, that set a precedent for the rest of the MCU going forward. And we're not going to turn this into an MCU debate, but if you go back onto it and you look at it now, does it still hold up as like one of the best movies
I
ever made, or has it been surpassed. And if it's been surpassed, that's fine. But does that mean that it's suddenly bad now?
Well, here's the two caveats with that. Is one, I don't think it was ever like one of the best movies ever made. One of the
I mean, I
best
guess we can switch
MCU
over
movies.
to Avengers.
Well, do you mean one of the best MCU movies or one of the best movies?
I was going more broadly with
Okay.
like the way it set a lot of trend
Well,
for movies going forward.
I would say that it, however you feel, or however you felt about Iron Man 1 when it came out, I would say it still, for the most part, probably falls into that sort of placement. And I think, again, like with this one, with Kill La Kill,
Mm.
again, I grant that it was probably, you know, really, really unique and really interesting at the time, but just watching it right now, it doesn't, to me, have. And because it was your first anime, that probably also helped. Whereas with me, it was most definitely not my first anime. Or, not your first anime, but one of your first anime. Um,
And my first anime was Dragon Ball Z,
yeah.
best anime ever made.
Yeah. And,
Don't
yeah,
worry, I'm not going to make you watch that.
I think that I've just, I've seen. It's nothing I haven't seen before. And the plot doesn't really hook me all that much. Um, the, the characters I'm not super invested in yet. There's just not a whole lot of reason, I think, for me to be interested in the show. And I hate to sort of. This is really awkward for me to argue against because it feels kind of like I'm arguing, or not so much that I'm arguing, but more so that I'm just kind of being a bully here and trying to be the enjoyment police and what you can and can't like, and I don't want to do that. Um, because my main argument from just this first episode is kind of just like I'm not interested. Why? Because it just hasn't set up things that have been, or it hasn't set itself up with enough interesting plot hooks to get me personally invested. But if you are invested from this, like, I can't really tell you that you're wrong for that.
I will say that despite this being one of my favorite episodes, because looking at it now, I don't think it's my favorite anymore. I do like the animations. But despite it being one of my favorite
Uh-oh, the
episodes of the
rose-colored
series,
glasses are coming off.
quiet you. Despite it not being one of my favorite, despite it being one of my favorite episodes, I feel as though Kill la Kill is going to really hit its stride around episode 3, which isn't great. Because episode 3 is a legendary battle, and that's where things really kick off and the plot kind of comes into focus a little bit stronger, which isn't great if you're waiting 3 episodes. If you're watching 3 episodes to get to where the series is like, hey, look at me, this is what we're doing. This is what we're gonna do from here on.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not great, but
yeah,
I think that episode 1 serves really well as a pilot episode. As like, this is the type of show this is going to be. This is what we're going to be doing for a lot of the time, and here are some of the mysteries we want to kind of set up. But it doesn't hit its stride until episode 3.
See,
I say it doesn't hit. I say hit its stride, but then episode 4 comes out. And oh man, I'm not looking forward to that.
That's a tough one to sort of approach, and because I feel like you can certainly have anime that are definitely doing a lot more with their first episodes than this is. Like, I
Well,
don't
yeah.
think this did a whole lot for the plot in just one episode. I think,
I'm gonna disagree
and
slightly.
then maybe I'll reword that.
Okay. I'll let
I'll
you go.
amend my statement. It doesn't
All right.
it doesn't feel like it packs a whole lot of necessary plot points into the first episode, and it doesn't feel like it does enough of that to give the audience enough of an idea as to the direction that the plot is going.
Okay, I guess that's much more fair. That's pretty accurate. I don't disagree.
Like,
I will give you that point in its entirety.
I remember some anime watching their first episode. That these were like normal, uh, not like Oshinoko first episode, like normal like 20-minute first episodes, and around the halfway mark, like I was checking the time because I thought we were wrapping up the episode, and it was still like another half of the episode left. Um, and I think if an episode can, if a first episode can do that, like and pack that much story into like the, not even just the first episode, but the first half of an episode, and not make it feel rushed, I think that's a really great thing, and I think that's like absolutely what you want to do. And I feel like this just didn't do that. I feel like in one whole 20-minute episode, this did less plot. This moved the plot forward less than some anime do in like 5 minutes.
That is a fair statement to me. I feel as though a lot of kills, especially its earlier episodes, are very loosely written rather than being extremely tightly written. Because a lot happens here, but not a lot happens here. You know,
A
like
lot is
in this
on
episode.
screen, but not. A, yeah, I get what you're saying. A
Yeah,
lot of
like
stuff
in this.
happens, but it's not all important stuff.
Mm, which is weird because when I'm watching it, it feels very important. Well, not very important, but it feels like it now. Because we get introduced to like the Ryuko, we get introduced to the world, we get introduced to the villains, we get introduced to a lot of the pieces of the power system. You know, not all of them, of course, but like a fair number of them. And we get introduced to some of the side characters. Like a lot, it feels like it happens here. But looking back on how much it really advances the narrative, and I get you don't want to advance it too quickly because this is the first episode. Well, it'd be kind of weird if you found out who killed Ryuko's dad immediately. But, like,
Would it?
I don't know, I guess it just didn't do enough to fully
Would that be weird
get
though
the
if
point
we
across.
found out? Like, genuine question. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like a premise or if that's a twist.
It's kind of both. Like, the premise of the show is Ryuko needs to find out who killed her dad. And that's the whole driving force behind her character. That's sort of the inciting incident. That's everything to this character. You know, who killed Ryuko's dad? It's not like a mystery because they give you a pretty clear answer that's like a red herring throughout. Like, ooh, it's obviously gonna be Satsuki. Which, ooh, but why? You know, and then of course they reveal it to not actually have been Satsuki.
So
Um,
can I ask you something then?
sure.
Again, genuine question. do you think that it would be better to have that reveal in the first episode and have that sort of mini plot as being the focus of the first episode?
What do you mean? Like the idea that it's Satsuki who killed killed her dad?
Like the who killed her dad kind of thing.
Okay. That's kind of the plot of the episode. Ryuko goes to the school in order to find information on who killed her dad. Now we don't know necessarily why she does that, because the show decides to open up by doing some world building and giving you the power system first and foremost. But which I somewhat disagree with. If it was me writing it, I would have started with Ryuko reading the letter from her father and going to Satsuki to find out who killed her dad. But looking on it, yeah, I guess it would be better. It would have been better if they had thrown that mystery, quote unquote, first and foremost at the reader, at the viewer.
Right. Yeah, I think that there are, see, that's a thing I've been trying to do. Slight tangent. I don't feel like I think, because feel like is an emotional response. Think is a logical one, and you want to be logical when you're discussing things, not emotional. Sorry. Slight tangent.
Well, things make you feel emotional.
I don't know. I think narration is usually a bad sign, which is hilariously hypocritical of me to say, because my absolute favorite anime of all time has narration at the beginning of every episode. But in defense of that particular anime, it's more of like just historical context that you might need to know for the anime, rather than like narrating the plot or expositing plot points or information to the reader. It's more just like these are events that happened in history, in real life, you might not know, so they're going to be relevant to the episode. So just in case you don't know, this is what happened.
So what would you prefer if they had like some narration at the start?
I don't know. Yeah. This is it's not. It's interesting. Or it's an interesting topic of discussion. I would say that as much as I like want to enjoy it, it's just too. I think it's just too absurd for me.
And that brings me to my next question about this. About that actually. Because I need to question you about why you hate the voice acting, or specifically the dialogue, because I really don't see too much of a problem with it. There are mouthfuls that get spoken by Kill la Kill characters, but the dialogue itself isn't all that cringe-inducing. It's just a bit long-winded for me.
See, I don't agree. I think that. Well, I think it's safe to say that most dialogue in anime is a little bit. Maybe not cringe, but it's a little bit off-putting. Just because anime in general is like a very stylized medium, and
Right.
like I said before, I think part of the reason why so many anime fans say that English dub is cringe is because, well, that's just not how people talk. Like in anime, like the dialogue in anime is just not how humans speak. Um, and when you translate that into a language that people understand, that becomes very, very apparent. Um, so I think to say that it's not cringe at all is, just silly to me because most, if not all, anime is at least a little bit cringe when it comes to dialogue. Um,
Maybe I just have like a higher tolerance for cringe.
no,
'Cause I'm not usually cringing in a lot of animes,
no,
even
I'm
in the
not
English stuff.
either. I'm not either. But I get by cringe, I mean like it's not it's uh absurd dialogue, I guess, or it's like over the top dialogue. It's not how people normally would speak.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense.
Like shonen protagonist shouting about the power of friendship, like you like that doesn't bother me in anime because it's anime, but like you would never get that in like live action. That would never work.
Right. Okay, I see what you're talking about now.
Right. So yeah, I think with this, I feel like it leans a bit too hard into that sort of absurdist dialogue and like over exaggerated. And I know that's the point, and
Do you feel like it could be like the voice acting that does it for you?
I don't know.
Because because for me, what I guess would technically bother me the most isn't necessarily what I'm reading, because I think that it's just trying to be like cool most of the time, instead of like absurdist. It's a lot of the time the voices, like the boxing guy, for example. He's got a voice that I don't really care for all that much, and whenever I watch this episode, I always find myself a little bit cringing at his like a lot of like his deliveries.
That's possible. It could just be that the voice actor for certain characters are not that great.
But it's why we should watch the English stuff. Because
Um,
unlike a lot of other English stuff, Killer
no,
Kills is not only perfect, it's also sometimes better.
it is much easier to nitpick English speaking voice actors than Japanese speaking voice actors because we are fluent in English and we are not fluent in Japanese. So I mean, I can pass with Japanese. As far as I'm aware, you don't know really much of any Japanese. Um,
That is correct.
yeah, I can like get by in like if you put me in if you plucked me out of my seat right now and dropped me in the middle of Japan, I would be able to survive, but I wouldn't be able to hold a conversation. Um,
Hmm.
I. Anyways, tangent aside, I. Maybe it is partially to do with the voice actors maybe not being so great, but I think what my issue is, or maybe not my main issue, maybe like one of my issues, but I think I don't like the fact that it doesn't feel like it's taking itself seriously. I think.
Okay, and this is going to lead into some of the broader questions about the Eki and Ryuko's outfit and all that too. But let's start with taking itself seriously. So, in its defense, in these first few episodes, Kill la Kill's writers were still not entirely sure where they were, whether or not they wanted to take on a more comedic panty and stocking style tone, or if they wanted to go full tilt into the action. And it's something you can really see in a lot of these early episodes where they were like sort of figuring this stuff out as they went. Because a lot of the time it's like comedic and silly and definitely not taking itself very seriously. But I feel as though during the action scenes, especially again in episode 3 and going forward, that it does take itself significantly more serious. But in this first episode, in the context here, you are correct. It's not taking itself seriously. It's
Yeah,
just being a little silly.
I think that's a problem because I think maybe it's what you mentioned, kind of leaking through a bit here, but it does feel like that it wants to take itself seriously, but it also is just sort of laughing at its own premise in a bathosy type of way. Um, and I don't like that. Um, it's also very slapstick humor, which is just not my type of humor. Uh, call me
That's pretty fair.
call me pretentious, but I prefer sort of clever.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. You prefer your jokes high class. I see.
Unironically, I am told that I have the sense of humor of a 17th century British aristocrat, and
Hmm.
considering that I think like Doctor Who is one of the funniest shows ever, that's probably true.
Okay, buddy. Um,
But yeah, I one way or another, slapstick humor not really my jam. So
yeah, that's fair.
again,
Between
this
Killikills,
isn't
I feel like we've identified one of the root problems. Between Killikill's absurdist humor and its slapstick humor, those are things that are never going to go away. By the way, even near the end of the series, Mako is still going to be out here yeeting herself at Ryuko for comedy. Um, but yeah, with those in mind, I feel like that might be one of the problems.
right. And the what I really hate about that is the fact that like these are taste things and not
Mm-hmm.
structural issues with the narrative. Um, and after watching the first episode, I don't really have a whole lot of structural issues, or like solid issues that I can talk about from a writer's perspective. Um, Most of the issues that I have with the first episode are just taste things,
Yeah,
and that might be because there wasn't much of a narrative in the first episode. It might not be, but overall, I don't know. It feels like, for the most part, I'm kind of being a little bit of a villain here because the best
no, no,
argument I
no.
have is I don't like it, therefore bad. Which is just kind of silly.
um, that's entirely. It is kind of silly, but it's also valid because we're entitled to our tastes and opinions about these types of things. Because yeah, I get that Kill la Kill is not going to hit for everybody uh, the way it intends to. Like for me, the over the top, absurdist nature of it doesn't bother me. Makes me laugh at times, and it even adds to some of the action scenes because a lot of the action in Kill la Kill plays into the absurdist part very well. Like Ryuko's like combo against that boxing guy. Like you couldn't see that in a lot of other, like that would be like a JoJo tier combo. Okay, that's the only other anime I can imagine where you'd get something like that. And that's just how Kill la Kill is, just in general, like even in its action.
Right, and I mean,
Definitely,
oh sorry,
yeah.
I did you. I
Oh
didn't
no,
realize.
I was just thinking.
Yeah. Um, I would say that definitely it's not something like, even if I don't personally like it, you know, I if I don't personally like something, I am still capable of recognizing that something can be good even if I don't like it. Um, and it's only been one episode, so it's kind of too early for me to say that this is one of those cases or not. Um, but
Mm,
again, I just don't really think that I have a whole lot to say here, because again, I feel like a lot of my issues with this first episode are personal complaints,
right,
personal taste things.
and
Um,
that's fair. Kill la Kill. Knowing what I know about the later series, the rest of the series rather, um, I'm well aware that it's got very few plot issues as a whole. Like I'm struggling. Well, wait, hang on. Ironically, the later half of the series might be where you find structure.
well,
But we'll maybe get to that.
can I ask you something then? In that case,
Sure.
if, as we've established, that it's mostly personal preference, personal preference for this first episode, what do you like about this episode?
I've touched on it a lot. So this was my favorite episode. I'm not entirely sure if it is still my favorite episode, because a lot of the stuff that was my favorite about it is like a bit of nostalgia for those days, and I'd wake up and immediately watch Kill la Kill. But mm, I really, really enjoy the art style. Like I've touched on it a few times. I love the art style, and I'm gonna take a drink. I love the art style. I love Yuko as a character is really unique. Like I mean, you've watched more animes than me. You've probably seen like tons of tomboy-esque characters, but for me, who
Rio
hasn't
from
seen like
Bochi is my current. Well, I'm actually currently watching Bochi. Um, I do
mm,
like Rio,
mm.
but
but
anyways,
for me, but for me, yeah, Ryuko is a really good MC that I really like, that I really want to see more of. Um, just because she has this like attitude about her that like pulls me in and captivates me, and it's like, oh wow, she's really cool. She's different from a lot of other female MCs you'll see in anime, who are like uh, demure, demure, and sweet. She's brash and like hot-headed. It's really good. Um, and she's not the only character that really pulls me in with her charming personality. Mako. Some people don't like Mako. I've met people who don't, but Mako is just really cute, and she pulls me in with like a lot of her wacky antics and all that. And Satsuki definitely has a lot of villain potential built up here in this first episode. And that's just for the characters. In regards to what else I like, the comedy does occasionally hit for me in this episode. There are parts of it that do make me laugh. Um, but what really gets me is the action and like the badassery that Trigger animates. Because when Ryuko hits this dude with the triple combo, slices his clothes off, and then flings him into Satsuki, resulting in everybody trying to block his body and the blood from hitting her.
which I did
It's
admit,
just so badass,
I did
and that
admit
I
that was
love
a
it.
cool moment.
Oh yeah, that's one of the things I like most about Kill la Kill. It's just so unabashedly cool with so much of the absurd stuff that it's going to do, and I just really like it.
Yeah, that's interesting because you mentioned I wanted to talk about this as well. Um, you mentioned how Mako is like a favorite character of yours. That's very funny to me because Mako, at least as she's presented in this first episode, is a type of character that I really don't like. Um,
Oh, why not?
I think that I would say the best sort of character that I could compare her to that you would know is like Cherno. Um, and I think that Cherno works in like Cherno herself works because it's she's sort of like she's not as self-aware as Mako seems to be. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know how self-aware Mako is in the context of the actual narrative, but the show seems self-aware about her. Um,
What do you would you like to elaborate on that a little bit?
yeah. I I guess the best way to put it is that I think that Mako is Mako is overtly a I guess a punching bag of sorts. Um,
In the context of this first episode, that is sort of true. She never gets injured, but she does get put into a lot of like slapstick comedy situations.
right, right. She's the butt of a lot of jokes, I suppose, is the best way that I could put it. And I don't like characters that, and I think that's probably why Chirno works for me as well and Mako doesn't, is because unlike Chirno, Mako is usually put in a lot of situations to get funny reactions. She's a very reactionary character, I think.
Hmm.
And a lot of, at least from what I've seen so far, um, a lot of the personality that she develops as a character is um, because of her reactionary sort of personality, or because of like the her like the way that she reacts to certain things that happen to her is kind of the extent of her personality, at least that I've seen so far. Um, so I don't really like that. Whereas like with say Cherno, for instance, it depends on which version of Cherno you are talking about, but for the most part, most versions of Cherno are yes reactionary, but they are also like uh, they're not passive characters, which Mako seems to be to me. She seems to be a character that does not do much to drive the narrative forward. Ryuko is definitely an active character, and Satsuki is definitely an active character. Gamagori is also a character who is definitely a tool for pushing the plot forward, but at least from
Mm.
what I've seen so far, Mako just kind of seems to be along for the ride. She seems to be the sort of metaphorical ping pong, or not ping pong ball, table tennis ball that
Funny you mentioned tennis.
that gets bounced back and forth between all the other characters that are far more important to the plot, and Mako just seems to be a sort of side character that's along for the ride. And it sucks because I don't think that's how she's intended to be presented, but that's how she sort of comes across to me, and I don't like that.
So in this first episode, that is kind of true. I would argue that Mako can be kind of an active character. Like, she does seek out Ryuko specifically, rather than just running into Ryuko. But she is also a reactive character. So I guess in the first episode, she would be considered a passive character. That's also going to remain true for episode 2. But I feel as though I'm gonna laser in on only this episode, because if I use the rest of my series knowledge, it wouldn't necessarily be fair. So in this episode specifically, I'd say you're correct. Mako does kind of just be along for the ride a lot of the times. She does do things to not push the plot along, but to ingratiate herself in the plot, instead of just literally doing nothing and being something for Ryuko to have to go save, but or rather just being something Ryuko has to go save. But yeah, you're kind of correct. I like Mako in this episode because I think she's really cute and really good for the comedy. Because, sometimes you do need to have like a Cherno character, a character who's like a lot of the jokes are on. And she is very okay, she's not self-aware. The show is self-aware about it. Ramako never really registers the danger she's in until she's about to be fried. And even then. But yeah, I like Mako because of her comedic aspects. And it's just a matter of it's another matter of taste, right? Looking at her from a character angle, I think that you're correct. In this episode, she's very passive.
Okay, well, then I guess my original point stands in that this episode is not so great for drawing people into the show. And I think as a first episode, if that's the case, then as a first episode, it kind of fails. Because that's kind of the whole point of a first episode, is you want to draw people in, but also give them something of a satisfying conclusion in case they decide that, yeah, this isn't for me, and they just have like somewhere to leave off. You could make an argument that ending on a cliffhanger for a first episode is good because it makes the audience want to keep watching. But at the same time, I feel like for the first episode, you probably want to just it's probably would be better to not have a cliffhanger and have a vaguely satisfying conclusion, because I don't know. I've never released a weekly TV show before, so I'm not entirely certain about that.
I think you might be correct. I think.
As always.
I think.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding. No, please.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
I think that you might be right regarding the episode's failure to really capture a viewer, at least in terms of its narrative. When you look at its characters, like Ryuko's an interesting character, and you kind of want to see more about her. Even if you don't necessarily feel drawn in with the whole premise, there are other ways that the show can hook you, right? Like the action is really cool, or the animation is really inventive. Even if you personally don't think it is, other people could. And those are other ways that the show grabs you. I think that on a plot level, it doesn't do its job very well. I think that's correct. But I think that there are other ways that the show can, that the first episode gets its hooks into people. Like
Right.
for me, the reason I continued watching, I'll be honest, wasn't really about Ryuko's dad. It was about one, I really like the art style. Two, I really like Ryuko. And three, I've heard this is really good, so I want to see where this is going. But yeah, so ignoring the third one and two are still fine reasons for people to get into a show, I think.
Yeah, I would
But
say.
you're right. On a plot level, it does kind of fail.
Yeah, I would say that's totally valid, but I would also say that a lot of that probably has to do with the fact that it was one of your first animes and you've never seen anything like it before. Um, as I mentioned, as someone who has watched a fair bit of anime, um, uh, it is nothing that I haven't seen before, and the plot is not really anything, as you said, it's not really anything to get me invested. Um, and again, Ryuko as a character is, as she's presented in this first episode, is not really anything that I haven't seen before. The art style, again, as presented in this first
That's
episode,
interesting.
is not really anything that I haven't seen before. I will admit that this is the first anime that I've seen that has been entirely in a stylized art style, or like an over stylized art style, over some simplistic art style kind of thing. Um,
Hmm.
but
Well, I wouldn't really call it simplistic. Some of these backgrounds are pretty insane.
well, that's true. That's true. I'm talking more about
But
like
yeah,
the character designs and stuff. Like,
oh yeah, the character designs are really simple in order to give them more fluidity of motion.
right. Um, yeah, I would say that I've, like, again, this is nothing I've seen before. Maybe the first time that I've seen something like that for the entire first episode. Um, and I feel like that's partly because anime anime studios might have learned that, um, uh, which I think is true, and I don't know if this is the lesson they've taken out of this, but um, it seems that anime studios are of the mind that sometimes you need the detailed and slow moving sort of shots in your anime to uh, uh, make it more impactful and more interesting, because in for instance, in scenes where characters aren't really doing much moving around anyway, uh, there's having more detail allows for more, more depth of expression. It makes the characters feel more alive, and it makes them more easier to relate to for the audience. Um, in a way that this stylized form of animation doesn't really do as well. Um, and I mean, I would say that that's, that's kind of where this
See, I
falls short, in that there are moments where Ryuko is kind of just like standing there or walking or sitting, and it's, to me, it's like I would like to get emotionally invested in this, but I well, it's not that I'm not emotionally invested in it, but it's more so that it's not hitting as hard as it probably could, because it's not as uh, detailed as it could be. Hopefully,
you know, I think I'll actually grant you that here, because while there is in later parts of the show, there is one scene in particular I'm thinking of that hits really good for me. In this first episode, the more serious scene, um, like the scene where Ryuko was first confronting Setsuko, for example, it could be done better. But count, counterpoint, when in the later scene after Ryuko has thrown that boxing guy up to Satsuki's army, um, I feel as though that scene where they get like more serious, like right at the end, I feel like they do a good job with conveying to you that this is a serious scene, even in its stylized form, with like the shading and the lighting and stuff. So I feel like you're right throughout most of the episode, but it definitely can do more serious emotions in this style.
yeah, and it definitely can, or I'm sure it can. Um, I don't think there was a ton of super serious moments in this first episode, apart from perhaps, as you mentioned, the scene where Ryuko first confronts Satsuki.
Mm,
Um,
yeah, that's the most serious scene.
so it's kind of hard for me to get a good gauge of that, but I do feel like there are moments that I felt like were kind of supposed to hit harder that just really didn't. Um, and part of that is probably has to do with the fact that I was kind of talking over them and we were talking over the anime. Um,
Yeah, I noticed.
which
I
isn't
was like, I don't think that's gonna hit very hard for talking over it.
yeah, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, that's the whole point of this, is to discuss it, not to sit here and
Mhm.
watch anime. If we wanted to do that, we wouldn't record it. Um,
Right.
but yeah, even if that's part of it, I feel like it could have definitely hit a lot harder if it was a more uh, em- if it was a more emotionally stimulating scene. It would have been, or like
Well,
sensory
I think there might be. I think there might be a fix for that next time, though,
Okay, well,
because we could, we could let certain scenes play out in their entirety and then like hit pause to discuss them, which might be better. Like in this episode, for example, when Ryuko went to go back to her dad's house, I feel like that was that like would have benefited from us shutting up a little bit and then talking about it after. Because I
potentially.
know that's one of the scenes they want us to take seriously, just with the way it's shot and light and lit.
Potentially. And perhaps that's something to keep in mind for next time.
Mhm. Next time, it's gonna be one of my least.
Well,
Like it's not a bad episode, but it's also not my favorite episode.
I don't know.
Next time we get to
It
go into tennis.
it seems to me like you have a lot of least favorite episodes for an anime that
I have 2 least favorite episodes.
for an it seems that you have a lot of episodes that you don't really like for an anime that you claim is your favorite.
It is indeed my favorite, but I am of the opinion that you should be able to dissect your favorite things and really pull them apart and see if like there are things that aren't very good in it. I'm a Life is Strange fan. I kind of have to look inside and say, is this actually good or not sometimes?
See, that's interesting to me because my favorite things, my favorite animes, uh, like I definitely recognize that they do have problems, but I don't think I have any like I don't think any of my favorite animes are have episodes that I would say, yeah, I don't like this episode. Because if they did, they probably wouldn't be my favorite anime.
We'll see. Um, Most of those, are they like serialized animes usually?
No. Well,
No. Okay.
it depends. What do you mean by serialized? Like
Like every there's one plot that just continues throughout the whole series instead of multiple episodic plots.
uh,
Because
can
Kill
you
a Kill.
give an example?
Okay, sure. So the first half of Kill a Kill. Okay, let me actually try again.
Yeah,
So
that's not
Gravity
helpful.
Falls.
I don't know any of that.
So Gravity Falls is an episodic cartoon in America
Right.
that I know you've seen, and every episode is its own plot that
Right.
is
Right.
mostly self-contained. Av- yeah, Avatar: The Last Airbender, on the other hand,
Which I
barring a couple
started
of
but
most.
didn't finish.
Oh, you never finished it. I knew it. I knew you never did that. Okay, let me try a third time then. Um,
No,
what's
but
what's
I
a
started it, so I know like kind of. I think I know what you're going for with that.
Okay, well, Avatar: The Last Airbender, outside of some episodes in like season, nah, outside of some episodes, is mostly one long plot
On
that go is like one plot with like multiple episodes to it.
okay, okay.
Like,
Yeah, so that's why I was asking because initially, when most people say like serialized in the context of anime, they mean that it's like published in a weekly or monthly magazine. Um,
no, no, no. I meant that there's just like one long ongoing plot
okay,
instead of like episodic plots.
so yes, they are all uh, in that context.
Serialized.
In that context, they would all be serialized. Yes.
Okay,
Um,
so
that's not
for
really the
me,
word I would use, but yeah.
well, see, I only know it. Well, I knew it in both terms, but I know it more as like serialized is, it's a series. But yeah, so what I was getting at is that Kill la Kill, especially the first half, is a lot very episodic in nature. With like, there's like hints to an overarching plot, especially with like some of the Elite Four centric episodes. But Kill la Kill on a whole is episodic in its nature, which is why I can have least favorite episodes because there are just some episodes that have plots that I hate.
Right, but
You
like
know,
I would I would say that a great counterexample would be JoJo's, which is a anime that I definitely love very very much, and it's probably one of my favorite anime, but it's not
hmm
my favorite by any stretch.
right?
And I think like I only gave it a I think I only gave it like a 7 or an 8 on my anime list. Whereas like my
Mm,
absolute favorites I gave a 10. Um,
right.
so uh yeah, it's like, and that's because there are some episodes that I don't really like. The one where Polnareff becomes a baby is the one that immediately springs to mind for me. Um,
Mm.
I don't. That's a bit of a weird episode. I don't really like it very much.
Mhm.
Or a weird couple episodes, and I don't really like it very much. Um,
Right.
Whereas, like, with an anime that is, say, more, uh, holds more of an overarching story, uh, I would say that, yeah, I do, like, there are no episodes that I really dislike, and I think for an anime that only has 24 episodes, if you're going for the episodic, um, like that style of format where it's like episodic adventures, I guess.
Mm.
Um, that might be a flawed approach.
Okay. So Kill la Kill is split in that the first half of the series is episodic in nature with different villains of the week that Ryuko needs to face down. But the later half turns very much more serialized. Like everything from I think episode 10 onwards is going to be one long, well, multiple arcs of a series.
I don't think
But these first,
serialized is the correct term to use there, but
hmm, maybe my terminology is wrong.
well, anyways,
But yeah, you get what I'm talking about. We can discuss my word choice later. But yeah, so after the fact, after episode 10ish, there are multiple arcs that take place instead of just individual episodic episodes. So in the beginning here, we're gonna have a lot of episodic stuff, and there are episodes in an episodic format that can be just kind of duds. Like, and I know that seems bad when it's my favorite anime, but I don't really see that as like a reason for it to not be my favorite anime, if that makes sense.
um,
Because there are bad things in pretty much all of the stuff that I like that I don't like. Like in my favorite movie franchise, there are some bad movies. In my favorite Western show, there can be some pretty mid episodes. But Kill la Kill in particular, as my favorite anime, since I hold it to high standards, when it misses, for me, it really swings and misses. Like episode 2 is it's not my least favorite, but I wouldn't rank it very high if I had to rank every episode. Episode 4, on the other hand, in which, if I'm not mistaken, because I could be getting them mixed up, is the one where Ryuko and Mako have to race to school. That is not only most egregious in terms of its fan service, but is also just really, really bad.
see,
And you'll get to see that when we get to it.
I still don't think that I agree with the idea, and I think if to go off of your point that like an episodic story would occasionally have some dud episodes, I
Yeah,
think if
that's
that's
right.
the case, then that would preclude an episodic story from being my favorite story of that particular type, uh, just altogether. because if it had, or at least it would make it very, very difficult for it to be, because
See,
all of the
I'm
episodes
looking
would
at
have to
the
be home runs.
I'm looking at the broader picture of the wider narrative when I'm ranking. Because surely in even like favorite things, there are like arcs that are just not your favorite arcs. Like they're not bad, but they're not your favorite. Like I'm willing to say the Kill la Kill has bad arcs is the thing.
Right. And yeah, there's definitely like episodes that I like less than others, but there's no episode that I would say is bad. Like just overall the episode is bad. Whereas like with this you seem to be saying that like certain episodes in the beginning are just bad episodes outright.
Episode 4 is a bad episode, just outright. I
Yeah, and then I don't understand how it can be your favorite.
because I'm looking at the broader picture of the wider story. Like I can dislike certain things and think they're really bad, but when put into the broader context of the wider story, I can look past them. Even I can look past them, but I can still criticize the show for it. Because the broader story is something that really resonates with me, that I really like, and that's what's important. Like the overall product is greater than the sum of its parts.
But I again, this is another one that's hard because I'm trying to like approach this without seeming like the villain. Um I guess then my response to that would be you need to watch more anime then because you like I feel like that would not be the case if you had an anime that you did not have, that in your opinion did not have any bad episodes.
There are anime that I've watched that don't have any bad episodes. I just really like the overall stuff. I just really like the overall everything about Kill la Kill. It's it's not about the individual pieces. It's about the whole puzzle. That's where I'm ranking things
Right, but
in this case.
this is my point, is like my favorite anime, the overall puzzle is great, but you can take every individual piece out in isolation and it's still great. And that is part of what makes these things that much more amazing in my opinion, is that every individual episode is amazing even in isolation, and when put together they tell a story that is like just
I'm sure they're not all absolutely amazing the entire way.
not absolutely amazing, no, but they're all very good. And don't get me wrong, that's not to say that the story doesn't have flaws, but there's no episode that I would confidently point to and say this episode is a problem with the story. Like the flaws are more, you know, overarching or common flaws or plot holes or whatever, more so than they are like, yeah, this episode just isn't that great.
Hmm. I think this is. I don't. this is a difficult one because I'm not entirely sure how to respond. Because I want to say that it's just a difference in our ranking systems.
I mean, that's possible.
Because I feel, because the way I tend to rank just things I like in general is how does it make me feel? How much do I like the characters? And how much did I enjoy the overall experience of watching it? And for me, with the genuine exception of like episode 4, and if I'm not feeling it, episode 2, I really like the overall experience of killing it.
Right.
And I like it enough that I rank it above most of the other animes that I watch.
So,
Some of the other TV shows that I've watched.
so I think the conclusion that I've come to here is, you really, really need to watch Symphogear. Like, you really need to watch Symphogear. Because, like, everything that you like about Kill la Kill, granted, I haven't finished Symphogear either, because it's long. But, uh, everything that you like about Kill la Kill, Symphogear seems to have. And everything that you seem to not like about Kill la Kill, Symphogear seems to not have. So, um, apart from apparently the obsession with fascism and how that's how strippers and scissors and tennis rackets are actually a commentary on fascism. Yeah, Symphogear doesn't have that, but it has everything else.
See, there you go. That's why the themes are important.
God.
It's a commentary on fascism. Please believe me.
Everything is a commentary on fascism these days.
Yeah, but this is 2013. It's different.
Well then, in that case.
uh,
Yeah, 1984, go Burr. So yeah, I guess that's kind of I guess there's not much more to say here than on that matter.
yep, I think we've reached the conclusion. I could ask you about the Eki, but I will admit that it did take me some time to get
The
over the
Eki.
Eki too. Yes, the Eki.
Oh, the Etchy.
Yeah, my bad. I don't know why. I just always think of it as Eki.
That's okay.
Sounds like icky.
All
Get
right.
it?
Um,
But yeah,
I
I would
thought
ask you about that, but I admit that it took me some time to get over it too. For
I
me,
thought it was cringe. Not really much more to say about it.
that's fair enough. For me, I kind of got over it. When did I get over it? Not by 3, I don't think. Maybe by 5. Because by one of these episodes, you're just so sucked into the action, at least for me, that it no longer like resonates with you what they're wearing because it's just so awesome of everything else that's going on.
Well, hopefully
That
that's
was
true.
for me. Yeah. We will see.
Um, anything else you want to say before I end it?
Mm, remember, kids, don't do drugs.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm out of.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't particularly interested. I found it kind of boring. That's mostly just stuff I've said already.
It's weird. That's weird. I don't know how you can find it of everything. Because Kill la Kill is just so high energy. Couldn't imagine
Well,
bored while watching it.
not boring.
I
That's
can imagine not
boring is the
like
wrong word. I meant that I found it kind of slow, I guess I should say.
it. That's a first. Kill la Kill being slow.
I mean, narratively, I feel like it was.
Oh, okay. Because for me, Kill la Kill is just so high speed, high energy, fast at times. But like, yeah, narratively, it's gonna take a minute.
Yeah, and narratively it hasn't picked up yet, so it's still kind of, again, not really boring, but like also kind of boring to me. Um, I don't know. It's
hmm
it's it's not
Um,
easy to describe how I feel about this. It's definitely not a positive feeling though. um,
well, by episode 3, it finally ends up revving its engine,
well,
and
hopefully I
then it
will like
crashes
episode
and
three
burns in
then.
episode 4.
But
Hopefully, that one genuinely has one of the fights in all of anime.
well, that's a bold statement. Especially
There
just
are many great fights in anime, but it's one of my favorites.
especially that is a bold
I'd rank it.
statement to say to someone who has watched Puella Magi Madoka Magica Rebellion.
Yes, yes, I know. I know our difference in how we like our fight.
I'm just saying, Rebellion Homura versus Mommy is that is a really good fight. But well, that
We'll
aside,
see. I I don't rank it above a lot of Dragon Ball Z fights,
oh well, you're
but I do
lame.
rank it very high.
Wait. This fight in from episode 3, you mean,
Yes,
or the Puella Magi
this
fight?
fight from episode 3.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Um, well,
I I I rank it fairly high on my list, but
okay,
probably it's just really cool.
yeah. I
But
mean,
all right,
yeah. Uh, I guess that's about it. Rebellion is good.